Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Rachel Varitimos. She is an evolutionary astrologer who guides people to reconnect with their truest selves using the power of astrology. Welcome to the show, Rachel.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Welcome to the show. Welcome to India in this online form, Rachel. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We will be talking about astrology. We'll be talking about harnessing the power of astrology to transform one's life. We learn all this from you. But before that, let's understand a bit about your journey, your background, how astrology impacted your life. Help us understand so that people know who they are listening to, Rachel.
Yeah, so I started using astrology for personal development, and this came after me being in the personal development industry for about 22 years. I started my personal development journey when I was 9. I was obese, and I begged my parents to let me go to sleepaway camp, where it was a weight loss camp, because I wanted to lose weight and be like the other kids. And so that took me on a 22-year journey of healing my relationship with food and my body. And throughout that journey, it was so hard. It felt like I was doing everything I could to transform. And it wasn't until I finally stopped looking for answers outside of me and I surrendered and I just started listening to my body that I finally found that relationship with food that I was looking for. So, fast forward after food, I was like, oh my God, if I can transform this, I can transform anything. And so I started looking into other modalities. And I got my first birth chart reading. So I decided to get a birth chart reading because I had been attending a lot of women's retreats. The next thing I wanted to heal was my self love and my ability to connect with people and social anxiety and different things like that. And retreats were really helping me. And at these retreats, I met people who had met with this astrologer and they said that she changed their life. So I had been wanting to host retreats after attending so many retreats because they had been so healing for me. And when I got this birth chart reading, this astrologer told me about my past life using the nodes. That's what evolutionary astrology is it uses the south node and the north node, which I can explain in a little bit. And she basically made it sound like in my past life I had hosted a retreat before. So when she said that, even though I had never hosted a retreat before in this life, I had been really wanting to host one, and I took what she said as permission to go ahead and host one. I had no clients, I had no experience, but I ended up filling that retreat in 1 month with 14 people, and it was the most life changing thing of my life. And it also blew my mind that something I wanted to do so badly but had no experience in, just getting it confirmed by my astrology that I had done it in a past life gave me that permission. And then it worked out so quickly and so fast. Like it was like a month transformation to go from a person who's never hosted a retreat, never had clients, never made money on her own to selling out, like to making 25 grand on a retreat in 1 month. And then really changing people's lives. So I went on to host 6 retreats in 2.5 years. And I found so much self love through that journey. And I continued to use astrology to give me permission to do things I wanted to do, but was too afraid to do. And ever since I started using astrology, I just started, people call it quantum leaping, but growing at a rapid speed in my life. And it was wild because if I were to compare it to my journey before with food, that took me 22 years. And I even went to college and got degrees in food. Like I did everything to transform. And it took 22 years. So that's why I love using astrology because it helps you fast track your healing in my experience when you understand it and you know how to use it and you know how to flow with it and you know how to use it to give you permission to affirm what you already intuitively feel.
Absolutely, absolutely, Rachel. So I want to understand then if astrology can be so good for a lot of people in the way people want to see it, there is still a lot of misconception around it. So you must be getting it because, especially in the Western world, people have a lot of understanding to make about such things. So what are their questions generally? How do you address them?
Yeah, so a lot of people think that astrology will take your power away and that a lot of astrologers are charlatans who are just predicting their future, and it doesn't. I think the reason a lot of people question it is because when you have someone outside of you telling you who you are, and they're not asking you questions, they're not co-creating the reading with you, it takes your power away. And so in some ways astrology can take your power away. If you're just reading horoscopes and like horoscope apps and you're trusting them, those horoscopes aren't actually, you don't even know if they're actually impacting your specific chart. They're super general. And if you put your faith on an outside horoscope and it doesn't actually match with what you feel inside, that's also you giving your power away. So the way to use astrology in an empowering way is you have a co-creative experience with an astrologer. This is how I do astrology readings. So I'll give someone the energy, and then I have them tell me how that energy has showed up in their life, because then in that way it helps them tap into their own intuition and connect to their chart. The thing about astrology is that there are limitless potentials within the different aspects in your birth chart. It's not just one specific thing that's going to happen, and if astrologer ever tells you this one specific thing is going to happen, I would run, because that's not the point of astrology. Astrology is just energetic currents in the sky. It's not like an exact science saying this exact story is going to happen. Just like if we look at the weather to see if it's going to be a good surf day, if you surf, for example, if the weather's really bad and there's an undercurrent in a riptow, you're not going to go out and surf. Whereas if you hear it's a really good surf day and the waves are awesome, the current is great, like you can go out and surf and you can use that to your advantage. But even on a good surf day, that good surf day could work out in a million different ways, depending how you decide to co-create your experience that day. If you go into a good surf day and you're resisting it the whole time and you're like, well, actually the waves aren't that good. Actually, like, you know what I'm saying? You're just in a bad mood. Then you're not using the good energy to your advantage and you're resisting it. Same thing if you went out on a bad surf day and you're sucking at surfing and you're like, oh, this just means I suck at surfing. Like, no, it's just a bad surf day. And so when you know it's a bad surf day, just like if you know it's a challenging astrological time in your life, what you can do is you can surrender to it and learn the lesson and not be so hard on yourself and find self-acceptance. So astrology is more of a co-creative experience where you work with energetic flows, and that's how you can use it in the most empowering way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what are the ways that people can use astrology? A lot of people want to use astrology to know about the future and obviously about some of the past that you talked about. But generally, if I understand, it's about the future. What are the things that one can use astrology in? Secondly, what are the things that people want to know from you, come to you for?
Yeah, so people usually like to know what would produce the best outcome in their life, and that's what I help people do. Is I help people lean into the direction and the energy that's going to help them produce their best outcome. So one aspect I use in a lot of readings are the nodes. I talked about that a little bit ago. The nodes in astrology are collective energy points. They're karmic destiny points. So the south node speaks to our past lives and what's kind of old, our comfort zone, things that we need to let go of. Our north node is a collective obsession point. It's a karmic destiny energy that we're all moving towards. So right now, the north node is in Aries. We are all moving towards paving a new path, stepping into our own identity. And right now we are shedding Libra qualities, which is on the south node, which is, you know, living our life based on other people, trying to keep the peace, always being PC and politically correct. Aries on the north node is not politically correct. So it's almost like we're shedding collectively that part of us and we're moving towards owning who we are. So if I was reading for someone, I would look at Aries in their birth chart and I would tell them what part of their life they're owning who they are. And that would be one way I'd help people move forward. So, for example, if the energy of Aries in your birth chart rules your one-to-one relationships, because every zodiac sign in your birth chart rules a certain area of your life. Because we're moving towards this Aries energy collectively, I would tell that person to own who they are within their relationships and not try to keep the peace as much right now. Like, that's not going to help them. So what is going to help them is to embody more Aries qualities in their relationships. You know, be more impulsive, be more selflessly selfish, be more courageous, be more bold and direct with people. Don't try to like waver back and forth. And that's actually going to help you grow and evolve. That's what the nodes help us do, is it gives us this energy to move towards that is out of balance in the collective right now, so that you can help bring yourself and then therefore the collective back into balance. So that's one example of how I'd use it, but I'd look at a bunch of different planets and what sign the planets are in. And then, like I said, every sign rules a certain area of your life. So that helps direct me into what energy people need to work on in different parts of them. So, like, Saturn is in Pisces right now. We have been moving into this collective surrender. And so Saturn in Pisces has been causing blocks on us when we've been too in our mind, we've been too logical, where it's also putting blocks on our self-sabotaging behavior, because Pisces rules our self-sabotaging behavior. So right now, a lot of people over the last 2 years have wanted to stop drinking and put boundaries around drinking, because Pisces rules escapism, like drinking and drugs and, you know, not being here in this reality. And Saturn, because it's in Pisces, Saturn is trying to make us put boundaries around things, put structure in our life. And so I could look at someone's chart and see how Saturn is impacting their chart. And depending on certain aspects it's making to different planets, I could say, hey, you could be, one possibility for the energy right now is it's asking you to put boundaries around where you try to escape, so you can stay in this reality and actually feel what you feel. So notice when you want to, you know, smoke weed or drink alcohol or use some sort of drug, and ask yourself why you want to escape, because right now is a good time to get to the bottom of it so you can stop self-sabotaging yourself. So those are a couple examples.
Absolutely, absolutely, Rachel. Now, in terms of uh, the good times and the bad times, let me ask you this way: you can say no also about the U.S. So elections have just been over, and a new president. We know that there will be a new president. Who it will be? How does the future of America look like with this change? What are the stars telling you? What do you
Yeah.
think?
Oh, we're going into really new territory. So what's so fascinating is Aries, the sign of Aries, we just talked about it. That is the start of the zodiacal wheel in astrology. So it's the very first zodiac sign. So whenever, and then in astrology, we have these planets that rule generations. And whenever we have a bunch of generational planets move into Aries, it typically means like a fresh start for humanity. It means like a new beginning for humanity. And next year in May, we have Neptune moving into Aries. We have Saturn moving into Aries. Right now, the North Node has been Aries. It's been pushing us into newness. And then we have all these generational planets now turning into a new energy. So there's some giant shift happening over the next year where humanity is paving a new path it's never paved before, because that's what Aries does. You know, I look at Aries energy as that machete going through the jungle or the forest, like not knowing where it's going, but having to pave a new path. And what's interesting about these bigger generational planets moving into Aries and having a new beginning for massive generations is at the same time, the North Node is going to move into Pisces. So we've moved from this energy of paving a new path for ourselves and being pushed in that direction to surrendering. And what happens when we're like generationally going into a new phase of humanity is we have to surrender the old. We have to tie up loose ends. We have to let go of life as we know it. And that's what's really interesting to me, is that we're going to be collectively moving towards letting go and surrender. And what we're going to be shedding on the South Node and moving away from is our practical day to day and the day to day that we've had for a long time. And practical reality. And it's almost like we're being pushed into a more spiritual path. And then also with Pluto and Aquarius and us being in this age of Aquarius, um, Aquarius is also the sign of awakening. And Pluto is transforming. And so it's almost like at the same time we're going through this collective awakening. And over the next 20 years, we're going to see the power struggles that come from that collective awakening. I see a lot of shifting and changing through 2027. And then after 2027, it's more of an integration point of like, okay, this is where the chips are falling. Now we have to now reorient and integrate back into how society will be. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like because, like I said, astrology is just energetic currents, and these are the currents.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, from a common person's perspective, if I understand, humanity is turning more towards spirituality. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I almost feel like we have to because we're having to, whenever you have to let go of like an old way of living, it almost you have to lean on some sort of faith, right? In order to pave a new path. You know, when you're going through the jungle with a machete, there's some sort of faith that you're going to find something.
Right, right. So that's good news or not so good news for the planet or everyone. Everyone becomes much more spiritual. What happens then?
What I see is a lot of people owning who they are and really stepping into their gifts. That's what I see as part of this spiritual awakening because we're exiting Pluto and Capricorn. And what Pluto and Capricorn has done is it's created these power struggles within hierarchies. It's made us have a boss, like someone's had to be on tops. And, you know, a lot of the P. Diddy stuff's been coming out in the shadows of what it takes to get on top and be the boss. And so usually when Pluto leaves a sign, so it's leaving Capricorn officially this month and officially going into Aquarius, we'll see the gifts of Pluto and Capricorn come over the next 3 years. And what I think that we'll see is that's going to come with the fall of a lot of hierarchical structures because a lot of truth and shadow will come out. And as that falls and we're having to step into our individuality and step into what we want to see for humanity in the future, I think it's going to start to form a lot of different like humanitarian pods, like people, what different groups of people that think this is better for humanity. No, this is better for humanity. And I think we'll go from I'm your boss to more power struggles between what people think is best for humanity. And I don't want to call it like cult energy because I don't feel like it's like, I mean, that could be the shadow side of it by the end of Pluto and Aquarius. But um, yeah, I don't think it's necessary. I think if anything, we're tapping more into our intuition and connecting more to our spirituality because we've been a little too practical. It's almost like we've gone too practical. And now we're at the point of coming back into balance. So I don't think it's a bad thing, but I do think that there's going to be some sort of weeding out, like, you know, not survival of, maybe survival of the fittest, we can call it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this astrology, is it only applicable on humans or other species also?
Oh, animals for sure. My dog. I want to know everyone's pets birth chart and their astrology sign because they act like it. Like I've had so many dogs in my life and they all act like their sign. My dog that I have in my room right now, he's a Sagittarius. And man, I mean this dog has traveled so much and Sagittarius loves to travel and he travels so well. He's so good. And he's also a berserker and just crazy like a Sag and wants more and more and more and wants to meet that person and wants to meet this person. And then I've had like an Aquarius dog who's way more detached and like observant. And yeah, it's my favorite.
Absolutely, absolutely. A well networked and well traveled dog, if we may call him.
Yeah.
Right, right. So let me ask it this way, Rachel, is that a lot of people are worried about the future. You said the future looks to be better for humanity from a spiritual sense, but a lot of astrology is being done by, you know, AI, if we can understand it. and,
Mhm.
and and people are worried about AI also. So, in your opinion, can we also know about the future of AI? Will the bots will have a future, or humanity will have a future? How does the future of these bots, this AI, looks like from a astrological point of view to you, Rachel, if it is possible?
Yeah. So, one second. My dog now wants to go out. He's like I said, typical Sagittarius. He can't make up his mind. So okay, so there's a couple of things here. Right now, we have Uranus and Taurus. So Uranus rules things like, futuristic inventions and AI and technological revolutions and, you know, all those different things, science. But also like awakening as well, like awakening to that higher perspective. So with Uranus and Taurus, Taurus is a very different energy. Taurus is about the here and now. It's about what you can touch. It's about the real world and being present in the real world, and like nature, and not being completely disconnected on social media. It's very much earthly things. And so, if we put that on one side, which I'll come back to that in a second, and then we look at the fact that we're going into Pluto and Aquarius, and Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. So, Aquarius is all those things too. Aquarius is just the sign, Uranus is the planet of that. So, Aquarius is also about futuristic inventions and technology and all those different things. And whenever Pluto enters a sign, we see the power that comes from those things, but we also see the power struggles that comes from those things. And so Uranus will be in Taurus the next few years as we receive a lot of the gifts from Pluto leaving Capricorn, and we really integrate into Pluto and Aquarius. And so I feel like in the beginning, there's going to be some sort of push towards, yes, using technology in an empowering way, but also integrating the human and like the real world into your life. And the power that comes from that, and it's almost like if we can, because Taurus also likes to simplify, and if it's in Uranus, it wants to awaken us to simplification. So I think if we can use technology to simplify our lives, and then we use ourselves to get present and in the present moment and simplify our lives ourselves. So it's like technology helps us and we simplify, and then we tap into our intuition. Our intuition is our strong point right now, and I think that will be part of that power struggle, is combining human intuition and the human soul, and what humans can do that computers cannot do. And I think that will help as we move into AI, is really using it to simplify your life, using it to get more present, using it to tap into all of your senses so that you can really be aware. Like us humans are as powerful as a computer when we're fully tapped in and turned on. If you think about how we used to be in nature, and there are even people who live in nature now, there are people who know nature so well because they are so present to it and they are so practiced in it, that if someone else came out on a really sunny day with them, they'd be able to tell you, oh, in 4 hours, there's about to be a thunderstorm, even if it's so sunny right now. And the other person who's not used to being in nature would be like, what are you talking about? How do you know that? And that's because when humans are present and have a simple life, we are connected to these things that computers are connecting to. Like computers can connect to trends, we can connect to trends as well. And so I think part of the power struggle over the next year is finding that balance, um, between technology and us. But also, yes, I do see power struggles because that's what Pluto inherently is, and it likely will cause. There'll be some shadowy stuff with a lot of the technology that we'll find out in the next 15, 20 years when Pluto leaves Aquarius, and then we reintegrate those lessons.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you talk about using astrology, one can heal relationship patterns. Tell us a bit about this. How relationships are so important. How can one do that through astrology?
Oh my God, this is my favorite. So I I have a dream that we live in a world where everyone understands astrology and uses it to understand each other. Because if you even think about people's moon signs, for example, your moon sign can deeply connect you whether you feel safe and secure with someone, because your moon is what makes you feel safe and secure. It is the window to your soul, and it's what you allow people to see in your most private. So what I find in relationships sometimes is if people don't know their partner's moon sign, they can just think that their partner doesn't get it, their partner doesn't see them, or they won't get their partner, and they'll project onto their partner and get mad at their partner for being a certain way. So, an example in my life, my partner, my boyfriend, his moon is in Virgo. And for the first 4 years of our relationship, before I learned like about his moon sign and really took it seriously, I didn't want his help. He wanted to help me so badly. Like, he loves to be of service. He's a Virgo moon, Virgo rising. Virgo loves to be of service. They want to help you. They need to help you as a Virgo moon. And I would just reject his help because I didn't want it. When I found out that that's a need of his moon sign, I purposefully asked him one day for help. And he jumped up and down like a 5-year-old boy and said, "I thought you would never ask me." And it had a big shift in our relationship. And I started asking him for help more often. And I also learned that Virgos need then appreciation for their help. They want to know they did a good job. And so I've learned those things. But another way that astrology can help you heal relational wounds is when you know certain energetic patterns are happening in the sky, you can use them to your advantage. So I'll use my partner and I as another example. There was this one fight that we had for so many years, and we all know those fights that it's the same fight and you never get over it and you can't ever seem to find a resolution, and it always ends with slamming doors. So we had one of those, and it ended up with us slamming doors. He went to his office, I went to my computer. I was just clicking, seeing red, like feeling like all the feelings. And I decided to see what was happening in the sky, to see if there was anything that could help us through this fight. And I saw that Pluto, which is the planet of our biggest triggers and psychological trauma and fears, but it's also where our power resides, was making a trine to the moon, which is how we feel. And so when Pluto trines the moon, it's bringing up triggers and trauma in you to heal, but it feels horrible. It feels like you just want to be triggered by the other person and say they're wrong and you're right, and you don't want to come to a resolution. So knowing that was the aspect, I went back into the room with my boyfriend and I thought, I'm going to heal this pattern for good. So I went in and I said, "Tell me everything," because I knew that why he was getting triggered was something in him, and why I was getting triggered was something in me. And I was just going to hear him out and breathe and not say anything. So he ends up just talking for like 20 minutes. I'm just breathing, getting triggered left and right, wanting to respond, but telling myself to breathe. And he ends up having this giant release after 20 minutes around his dad. What he was yelling at me about ended up being all about his dad. And because I gave him the space to finally get there without my trigger interrupting him, we were able to actually have resolution on that fight, and we never had that fight again. He had the biggest cry around his dad, who had passed away a few years earlier, that he had ever had. Um, and it was mind blowing to me to be able to use astrology in that way. Um, because most of us would just keep getting triggered and then not resolve the fight.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if I remember correctly, even Mother Teresa was a Virgo. So if people generally, if I understand, a lot of Virgo people are a bit more, soft in that aspect. They want to help the world. They want to change the world for the better. Be that as it may, there is so much to learn from you, Rachel, and I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn more about astrology, more about what it can do for them through you. So, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so I have a podcast called the Astrology Magic Podcast. It's on most podcast players. You can find it. I would say that's the best place to find me. And I put links in the show notes if you want to book a reading. I also have a YouTube, Astrology Life Magic, where I upload videos on there. And there's a link in my YouTube to join my email list and all those different things.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.